The time is now for the Dr. Bob Sports Podcast. I am Tanner. I am our head of analytics. And for the past 6 years, I've been working alongside Bob, originating our NFL and college basketball bets. And today, as always, I'm joined by our digital media specialist, Grant. How we doing?
Doing great, Tan. I'm super pumped for week 1 of NFL to start. We got Chiefs, Lions, and there's been some pretty big news happening here. So I was happier yesterday, but I think I'll get through.
Yeah, Grant is going to be our unabashed Chiefs fan all season. He's not going to hide that fandom. I certainly am just rooting along our bets. So I don't really have a dog in this fight. But yeah, like you said, a ton of news. And we're going to do a little bit something different with this video in that we're just going to do a short game preview for the NFL opening matchup.
All right, so let's jump right in this. The major storyline of the NFL's opening game this season is who will not be on the field for the reigning Super Bowl champion Kansas City Chiefs. The Chiefs will be without all pros and defensive tackle Chris Jones and Travis Kelce. Kelce just hyperextended his knee at practice Tuesday and would likely be sidelined for a few weeks here.
Yeah, it seems like Father Time might be catching up to Kelce, who's missed just one game due to COVID in the last 5 seasons, not counting that one that he was resting in the last week of the season 2 years ago. And just one tight end in the history of the NFL has had more than 1,000 yards during his age 34 season. And that was Pete Retzlaff in 1965. So we were already expecting a little bit of a drop off from Kelce this season, but he's hurt before the season has even started.
Yeah, you've been warning us about this age 34 season for a while here, but how big of an impact is this going to have on Mahomes and the offense as a whole?
Well, only 9% of Patrick Mahomes' total career dropbacks have come without Kelce on the field. And Kelce averaged 0.43 EPA per target in 2022. And the Chiefs are activating 7 wide receivers, but it looks like the favorite to step in and get all of that inside work that we would normally expect Kelce to get is Sky Moore, who averaged 0.17 EPA per target last season. That's a difference of 2.4 points per game if Moore gets the 9 targets that would have gone to Kelce. Now we have Kelce worth 1.5 points above replacement level, a little bit less than that EPA per target calculation suggests, because we were already expecting a little bit of a Kelce drop off. We're expecting Sky Moore to get a little bit better based off of his rookie to sophomore season. And Noah Gray, the backup tight end, was effective last year with 13 expected points from 34 targets. So he might get some of those 9 targets as well.
Yeah, and the Chiefs are also missing pieces on this D line. Is this going to play a big factor in the game?
Yeah, so Kansas City's defensive line comes into this game without their 2 best players. You already mentioned Chris Jones, who led all interior defenders with 77 pressures last season. He's holding out for a new contract. And then new addition, Charles Omenihu, ranked 20th in pass rushing efficiency among edge defenders with the 49ers last season, but he is suspended to open the 2023 campaign. So these cluster losses, the 2 best players on the Chiefs defensive line, are worth about 2 points total. And Detroit's offensive line should be able to bully the remaining young Chiefs up front.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right. I think they're probably just going to try and play bully ball with us. But is their offense good enough to go toe-to-toe with the Chiefs?
Well, I do think that they're going to focus on the ground game because their group of receivers is near the bottom of the NFL in my mind. Wide receiver Jamison Williams is out to start the season, leaving Amon-Ra St. Brown as the only receiver above replacement level on this offense. I mean, you look at the other guys, wide receivers Khalif Raymond, Josh Reynolds, and Marvin Jones combined for just 1.38 yards per route run in 2022, and we're certainly not expecting much from a second-round rookie tight end in Sam Laporta.
Yeah, I mean, is Goff good enough to really support these just average receivers and make this an elite offense again?
I don't think so. I mean, Goff was our 26th rated quarterback last season. And initially that sounds really low for a quarterback who finished 6th in EPA per play. However, our metrics aren't the only ones that had him below average in 2022. He graded as PFF's 20th quarterback last year, and he finished below Marcus Mariota with a completion percentage versus expectation of minus 2.1%. And no one has had any problems criticizing Marcus Mariota's accuracy all last season, but I don't see people criticizing the season that Goff had, which was below Mariota. And we just assign much of the credit for Detroit's offensive production last season to coordinator Ben Johnson, but now defensive play callers have had all offseason to diagnose his power run scheme. And I think, it probably results in a drop off for the Lions offense.
Yeah, and I mean they're going against this young Chiefs secondary. Should we expect these guys to take these pretty big second year leaps?
Well, yeah, it is a lot of young guys back there, and the Chiefs lose starting safety Juan Thornhill. But I do think those leaps that you were talking about will be able to replace Thornhill's production. I mean, they had a ton of rookies back there last year: Trent McDuffie, Jalen Williams, Joshua Williams, and Brian Cook. And the Chiefs conceded only a 42% dropback success rate in the second half of last season, despite rookies accounting for 45% of their cover snaps. So if those rookies continue to improve like we saw already in the second half of the season, this Chiefs secondary could be pretty dangerous.
Yeah, and we also saw the Lions make some pretty big moves this offseason on their defense. Should we expect them to be pretty improved this year?
Well, the betting market is implying that Detroit's defense is 1.2 points better than where they finished last season. I believe that to be warranted. They bring in cornerback Cameron Sutton and safety CJ Gardner-Johnson, who should stabilize them on the back end. Plus, edge defender Aiden Hutchinson has a chance to vault himself into a Pro Bowler after recording 53 pressures his rookie season. But I don't know if this is the game for Aiden Hutchinson to get off to a hot start.
Yeah, I don't know if it is either because the Chiefs actually made some pretty big moves on this O-line. You want to talk about those?
Yeah, so the Chiefs let both of their starting tackles walk in Orlando Brown and Andrew Wiley, and they brought in new right tackle Jawaan Taylor, who ranked 7th in pass blocking efficiency on true pass blocking snaps, according to PFF. And the reason we want to look at true pass blocking snaps is because it takes out plays with screens, play actions, quick passes under 2 seconds, and when the defense only sends 3 rushers. So Jawaan Taylor was a top 10 tackle in the NFL in that metric last year. Meanwhile, Orlando Brown ranked 31st and Wiley ranked 41st in pass blocking efficiency on true pass blocking snaps. And then they bring in left tackle Donovan Smith from the Buccaneers, and Chiefs fans are a little hesitant on him because he led the league in holding last year. But you look at him, he ranked 25th in pass blocking efficiency on true pass blocking snaps last season and 16th in 2021. So I think Donovan Smith is a solid, capable left tackle. I think Jawaan Taylor is a good, near the top of the league right tackle, and the Chiefs are, not having to replace that good of production at the tackle position from what Orlando Brown and Andrew Wiley gave them last season.
Yeah, and I think the receivers are going to be a lot better this year. I mean, they lost Juju, but I think they did a good job replacing him. Don't you agree?
Yeah, I mean, we love bringing in Richie James, who had the 4th highest success rate when targeted last season. And James ranked 26th in 538's receiver rankings, which factor in difficulty of reception, ability to get open, and yards after the catch ability, while Juju Smith-Schuster ranked 46. So you could argue that James is an upgrade there over Smith-Schuster.
Yeah, and the Lions, they sat their starters for most of the preseason. And don't teams that do this start pretty bad historically?
Yeah, well, Sean McVay proved that you can take a team to the Super Bowl without playing any starters during the preseason in 2019, and plenty of coaches have adopted that strategy recently. It does ensure that none of your important players get injured, but it doesn't seem to be helping teams early in the season. And teams that rested their starters for the entire preseason are 6-13 straight up and 7-12 against the spread in week 1 since the start of 2020. And the Lions didn't use their starters in the preseason, while the Chiefs did put them on the field.
Yeah, and this line has just been moving all over the place with all this news that's been coming in. Where are you at with this game right now?
Yeah, we've seen Kansas City go from a 7-point favorite down to -4.5 as we record this Wednesday afternoon. And throughout the summer, the Jones holdout, the Amenahu suspension, and most recently Kelce's knee are the reason this line has been moving down. Now that converted to win probability, and the market has those 3 guys worth about 9% in win probability for the Chiefs, but we actually have it more like 11%. However, we're lower on Detroit's offense than the betting market to start the season. So it all nets out. We really don't see any value on the side or total. Our metrics favor the Chiefs by 4.2 with a predicted total of 53.5.
Let's look at some fantasy and DFS plays for this game. So the rushing props are pretty interesting. We've got a couple bad D lines going head to head. Do you like David Montgomery's number of over 48.5 rushing yards?
That does feel a little short to me. I mean, Ben Johnson, the Lions offensive coordinator, said that he might use rookie running back Jahmyr Gibbs in some ways that people don't think of. And to me, that implies he's going to be used as a receiving weapon since they're so light outside of Amon-Ra St. Brown. That might open the door for David Montgomery to get 15 to 20 carries behind that offensive line. We already discussed why we think the Lions are going to lean into the ground game in this opening matchup. And even at 4 yards a tote, 15 carries, that's 60 yards for Montgomery right there.
Yeah, and what about Pacheco over 49.5 rushing yards? I mean, he's returning from the shoulder surgery, so I don't know if that worries you at all, but he also has a receiving prop that's only at 9.5 yards. And it feels like one screenplay is going to cover this prop. But I don't know how are the Lions going to play defense against these screens?
Well, I'll answer the last question first. The Lions only allowed 351 receiving yards to opposing running backs last season, which was the lowest in the NFL and clearly an emphasis for defensive coordinator Aaron Glenn. And I also think that Jerick McKinnon and Clyde Edwards-Helaire will get much more of the receiving work than Pacheco. So we already don't think that the Chiefs running backs will have, their average production out of the backfield, catching balls out of the backfield. And I don't think that Pacheco is the guy to get that work regardless. Now, as far as his rushing yards go, 49.5 feels low again to me. Pacheco didn't earn a third of the offensive snaps for the Chiefs until week 10 last year when he was a rookie. And then he got more than 33% of the offensive snaps in every game down the stretch. Now, those final 12 games, including the playoffs, Pacheco went over 49.5 rushing yards in all but 2 of them.
Yeah, and if you're looking for someone to put in a DFS lineup, are there any guys that stand out?
Yeah, so the players I like on the DraftKings Showdown slate are David Montgomery at 6,600 and our guy, Richie James, at 2,000. Yep. I don't think he's going to be out there for every snap with the Chiefs offense. Dave Toub has already said he's going to be a return man for the Chiefs in week 1. But 2,000, that's a very, very low price on the Showdown slate. And I'm hoping that he can catch 3 or 4 balls. And we've already seen him involved in the red zone in that Saints preseason game. So I love the value with Richie James there.
All right, let's look at one of the main stars that people are going to be high on this week. Amon-Ra has props of over 6.5 receptions and a receiving yard total of 77.5. Do you like these numbers?
Well, I mean, those numbers seem too high to me. And Amon-Ra's listed at 10,200 on the DraftKings Showdown slate, which also seems too high to me. You look at the Chiefs, nickelback L'Jarius Sneed. He's one of the best in the NFL. He allowed only 1.04 yards per cover snap in the slot in 2022. And Amon-Ra St. Brown had 57% of his targets come when he was lined up on the inside last year. So I expect to see Sneed across from Amon-Ra a lot. We know that Sneed is probably the Chiefs' best player in the secondary. So the Lions are going to have to look elsewhere for the receiving work on Thursday night.
Yeah, and Jahmyr Gibbs has over 30.5 receiving yards and 3.5 receptions. Do you like these numbers then?
Well, I mean, I could see that being where the production comes from. I mean, I just don't like any of the other Lions players in the receiving core. And I just said that I think Amon-Ra will be relatively locked up. And we already know that the Lions probably want to justify all that draft capital they spent on Gibbs because people have been mocking them all summer for using that pick on him. Ben Johnson said he's got some creative ways to use Gibbs. So, I mean, 3.5 and 30.5 receiving yards seems high for a running back out of the gates, but I think the market's onto something here and they might still be a touch short.
All right, well, let's look at the public bot pick of the game. Everyone loves to take a shot on first TD score. If I'm forcing you to pick somebody, who would it be?
Well, to me, that's MVS at 13-1, especially now with Kelce being out of the game. The Lions running that aggressive man defense that should leave some holes in behind. I mean, I could definitely see Andy dialing up a deep shot on the opening drive of the season, and MVS would be the guy that play would be run for. So MVS 13-1 is the dart throw first TD score for our opening game of the NFL season.
Yeah, I like that one. I mean, we've seen Noah Gray jump up all the way to 14 to 1 on DraftKings now. So if you're looking for Kelce's backup, you think baby Kelce's going to do it? I don't know if I would be betting on that one, though.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, that was crazy to see the Gray jump all the way up on the first TD scored leaderboard there. But, I mean, if you can get MVS at basically the same odds as Noah Gray now, give me MVS all day.
All right, that will do it for our Chiefs and Lions first game of the season preview. We will be back on Friday to preview the rest of the week 1 slate. As always, make sure to like and subscribe.